The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good morning, everyone. We are having a little audio issues with our attendees or our staff that are going to do the second part of the presentation. So we're going to work on that in the background while we get going. But welcome to the August version of the Cybersecurity Coordinator Forum. Can I get a kind of some hands up just to make sure everyone is hearing me correctly and can see my screen before we kind of continue on? All right, I see some of those. Thank you, everyone, for that. All right. Well, I'm your host, Todd Polly. I am the Deputy CISO and Cybersecurity Coordinator here at TEA. And we hold this monthly Cybersecurity Coordinator Forum to interact and engage with cybersecurity coordinators around the state and each of the LEAs. And so each LEA is supposed to have a cybersecurity coordinator designated. So if you are know some an ISD or a charter school or whatnot that doesn't have one of those, interact with them, pass this along so they can get engaged in this as well. Anyone else that's interested in cybersecurity in K-12 in Texas is definitely welcome to join as well. On the agenda today, we've got some announcements here for Texas ISAL. Normally, we'll talk about some CISA stuff, SLGCP grant, CyberStart America, some advisories, and then some updated incident reporting. We're going to talk about the initiative here, and then move on with the presentation from AT&T. I think I botched my agenda there. Texas ISAL. If everyone is not signed up for the Texas ISAL, please do so. The ISAL is an information sharing organization run by DIR, and so they pass along timely alerts, things that are relevant to your sector. So K-12 is the one you should sign up for when you get in there. Vulnerabilities, things that pop up, known exploits that are happening in the environment, all those kind of roll through there, and you get alerts for software. There's lots of good stuff that comes through this. So if you haven't signed up for the Texas ISAL, please do that. We also use that K-12 segment of that to pass along our incident reports if there's something that comes through that's timely and actionable that we need to pass along to that. So there was a previous legislation that required that, and so we use that list to disseminate that information. CISA recently released a K-12 cybersecurity tools and resources section. And so this website has lots of tools and resources. They've got a report that goes along with this that's on the webpage there as well. There's free stuff that like the Fed VTE training and some other teacher and student safety videos. There's various things where they've kind of compiled lots of free resources that are available. And they've also put together some recommendations from that report and actionable items and tools that CISA has available where you can implement those kind of for free with their services. So check that out if you're interested at all. Good stuff in there. Also wanted to give you an update on the cybersecurity grant through CISA, the state and local cybersecurity grant program. So this was announced as, if you might remember, this is like the $1 billion grant program that the feds are giving to schools and local governments. And so it's all local governments. So the way this has fallen out, Texas has applied for this. We had to form a committee. We put that together. And with this is all through the governor's office, kind of leading that effort in DIR. And so Texas portion of that is $40 million over 4 years. So there's some dollar amounts for each year. There's some matching requirements that go up each year as far as that goes. And the matching funds will be paid by the grant subrecipients. So it's broken up 4 years. The minimum of 80% needs to be passed through local governments, and then at least 25% of that to rural communities, which rural is classified as 50,000 population or less. And so doing the math on this, at some point in time, it doesn't look like much, but this, with some of the requirements and, just knowing, reaching the locals and K-12 is included in that. This is actually something significant and could be. So you apply each year for a particular program that you put together, and then we can, that gets approved, or, if it meets the standards for that. There are some requirements in there that you sign up for these services from CISA, and this is included in the grant. So If you're doing web application scanning, vulnerability scanning, and doing the nationwide cybersecurity review, the NCSR. There's some other grants that require the NCSR as well. So if you've already done some of those and have included that, and join the Texas ISAL is also a requirement. So all these things are free. There's no cost in any of these things to sign up and do. And so those are requirements of that. 2022 is the first year. We're kind of getting through that. We're already in 2023, but they're going to back because of the way the grant is structured. It's kind of a year behind. So if you haven't done your NCSR and you want to take advantage of that, that's probably the biggest thing. And then sign up for these services. There's a website there. Again, we haven't actually got approval on our plan yet, as I understand. So that is in process. But once it is, this is all through DIR and the governor's office. So they have a website there that's got lots of information about that. So check that out, and we'll update you as we hear more on that. All right, CyberStart America. So I got a recent email about CyberStart America. Normally it kicks up a little later in the year, but they have opened that up early for, they've got some feedback from school districts, teachers that are participating in this, and they needed a little extra time, and they have heard that. So they've opened it up earlier to allow you to access that and get in there and start practicing. So everything, all the points you earn will continue. We've promoted this. The governor's office has promoted this. So we wanted to bring this out here again. There are 2 links. There's actually a downloaded PDF in the handout section. So if you go check that out in the handout section of your kind of console there with GoToWebinar, you should be able to download that PDF. And then there's 2 registration links, one for teachers, one's for students in that process. So there's some notes here about that. If you, this all should be included in the PDF as well. All right. Cybersecurity advisory. So there's a recent one that came through. I wanted to pass along Barracuda Email Security Gateway. I'm not sure how many of you are using that. I am aware of some that are. So wanted to pass this along. There were some pretty popular released exploits that are out there, all basically building backdoors into the device through various means. And so those are detailed. The link there will take you to that advisory, and then also to any kind of guidance for that. There's lots of links kind of with IOCs in there too, as well, to how to look in your environment, see if maybe that was taken advantage of. If it is, the recommendation is definitely contact Barracuda and swap out that device. Also want to give you an update on the local government incident reporting. And so we talked about this in previous sessions. And so this was passed last legislative session in SB 271. And it basically, there was a previous requirement for state agencies to follow this reporting, and then it lumped local governments into that as well. And so now school districts are kind of fall into that category the same. The updates that kind of changes, because previously the reporting requirements for school districts for security incidents was all around student data. So if it didn't involve student data, there was not a hard requirement to report to TA. This kind of changes that, and so anything reportable, any incident that occurs in your environment, security-wise, cybersecurity-wise, needs to be reported to DIR in 48 hours, and then, excuse me, and then comply with the Business and Commerce Code there, and there's also a 10-day requirement after the fact. So if once you resolve the incident and you totally have an after-action report, follow that up as well. And so that goes into effect September 1st. Some other details about that. The local government definition includes political subdivisions, which is what we understand school districts would fall into in that. And so their definition of security incident is a breach or suspected breach of system security as defined by section 52.053 of the Business and Commerce Code. It also specifically calls out ransomware in this legislation as well. So the process, DIR will be taking this over. We've kind of worked with them previously with our reporting form, but for all local governments, they're creating a form that will accommodate all of those school districts as well. We still have the requirement with Education Code 11.175 regarding the student data portion of that. And so there'll be some conditional questions in that form that will ask you if that's the case. And if so, TA will get a report on that, and then we can pass that along with our previous method. So they're going to use Archer Engage to do this, facilitate this. You do have to create an account the first time. After that, then you can submit the tickets and get and then the postmortem as well after the fact. So as we learn more about that, they're kind of testing it right now. Tomorrow, we're kind of going to go through that and then get that process nailed down, and they're going to release that September 1st, I believe. So more to come. We'll kind of follow up on that again later. Also, wanted to talk about our cybersecurity initiative here. This is why everyone's probably here. We've been publicizing this. We've had other people talking about this, and so excited to talk about this more. So Texas, we submitted a legislative request to the legislature before the previous session, or this last session, and we got funded. And so we released a TA on that on June 15th. And so the request right now is that LEA sign up for that so they can take advantage of this portion and get this funding. So the details about that, let's see, so we're going to offer EDR to school districts. The limit that we're placing is 15,000 enrollment or less. These licenses should be prioritized to highest risk devices. The overall objective of this initiative basically was trying to prevent ransomware in school districts. And so we felt that EDR was kind of the most successful thing that school districts needed to accomplish that. There's definitely other things as well that we have in this proposal, in this program. But the biggest funded portion of that is going to be EDR. And so we think we have enough funding to offer that to 15,000 enrollment districts or less. And this includes open enrollment charter schools. And so license should be, prioritized by servers, central office staff, and then any additional things as needed with a maximum limit of up to 10% of enrollment. This number is really likely to change as we see who is signing up in step number 1 there with the DIR. You have to sign a local agreement. It's kind of a process. That form is actually in the handout section as well. And I think if we can get the audio working later, someone will be able to talk to that from AT&T. And so this number is likely to go up to include a little more for school districts. We got some feedback that wasn't enough to cover all the staff, and that wasn't necessarily our overall intention was to cover all teachers. We wanted to spread it as far as we could, but with the enrollment that's coming into the program, it looks like we're going to be able to extend that a little more. And so plan is for that announcement and that update to happen kind of mid-September. There's a superintendent meeting, and so we will reevaluate that then and announce that for that. Other cybersecurity services on there include some assessments. And so those assessments are not limited by district size. We want to get a sampling of the state as far as that goes. In this whole process, we talking to legislatures, and they didn't really have a hard number to look at to justify some things moving on continually. And so we thought if we could get that for them, that might be helpful ongoing. And so the security assessments will also come through the same format. Both of these services will be provided through DIR as directed by this legislative request here as they answered that. And so the managed services, security services on that will be the provider of these EDR and the assessments. The network detection response was on there as well. We're still trying to figure out all the details about that one, but kind of staying clear on that one. The cybersecurity assessments, like I said, are not limited by the 15,000 enrollment. They're also not as crucial that we take advantage of them month to month like the EDR is. It is billed month to month. And so like you can't just wait in middle of year 2 and say, hey, I want to sign a 2-year contract for this and get funded. It's paid month to month through the process. So that's why we need people to sign up and get engaged in that and get it installed. That money is available September 1st. So we've got a lot of districts, a number of districts that are signed up in there now, and anyone else that's interested needs to do that. All right. And so we also are about to release some FAQs on it. There's a lot of questions about this, just how the process works, who's eligible, lots of details about the customization and details that the flavor of EDR that you can get through this. We have 2 vendors that are included in this under the MSS contract. They've both been on previous months, so if you missed those, there's recordings of those on our website, and I'll have a link for that in a second. And so you can go kind of see their rundown about their offering and what their systems look like. And the MSS is AT&T, and so they may reach out to you for getting you signed up or trying to help you through that process. So this is totally expected and legitimate. They are the MSS contract holder on their DIR, and so and they're on the line. Hopefully, we can get the audio working. We'll try that again in a minute. All right, and so we're also funding some grant practitioners for this program, and so we're going to issue a grant, or sorry, cybersecurity practitioners. We're going to issue a grant to one entity, either a region or TASI, which represents regions, that will fund some cybersecurity practitioners to help implement this program and some of the other objectives that we have in the initiative. And so that would be like things like MFA, if it's available. There's a lot of districts that, anyone that has email basically has MFA available to implement. And they just haven't because of various, roadblocks or things that they don't feel they're comfortable with. So these practitioners, kind of their objective would be help with that, removing local administrative access, really kind of key things that are really high on the list of preventing, email compromise, which then leads to ransomware a lot of times. And so really cybersecurity focused work. And so these practitioners will be in the kind of regions to help with that. Again, the whole grant process, and we're going to look at that. We haven't issued that grant yet, but that's coming soon. All right. And as promised, here's a link to that website if you haven't found that yet. We've got previous meetings from this monthly cybersecurity forum on there, as well as some other resources, and we'll be linking other things too. This is where the FAQs will show up. If you have any questions about anything, you can email us at cybersecurity, ta.texas.gov. Anything about signing up for the process, you can email DIR security, and they will get you through that as well. All right. Let's see. Is anyone able to speak from AT&T?
Hi, this is Melinda, and we have Jean on the line here that is going to speak. And if you can let us know how the audio is coming through.
Hey, Todd, this is Gene. Can you hear me?
We can. Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. So I've got several of the folks on the team on the line as well. If there's a way that we could possibly unmute Bill Higginbotham, don't know if we're able to do that or not. He's not dialed in as a panelist, but if he can, that would be great. If not, no big deal. It would just really affect kind of Q&A at the end. So that's probably going to be, things I can't answer. I'll let Bill answer. So
I'll give it a shot.
But if everyone can hear me okay, very excited to be here. We've been working on this for quite some time. So we are pleased that we were able to get everything put together, working with a host of folks and organizations to try to get something up to the legislature that made sense and something that was very consumable and provided very, very much needed critical help to the K through 12 and charter school markets. So we're thrilled to be able to do that. And we're going to kind of talk through a couple of those options that we have today on the program. That is really kind of our main focus, our flagships, if you will, and work through those. And I'll talk you through the processes and those kind of things. So Todd, if you can kind of get rolling here. So that'd be great. So meet the team. Obviously, we can't do that because we're suffering some audio problems. But there is the frontline people that you see there on the screen in front of you. Kelly, Alanya, Scott Krager, and myself are all the application solution consultants, BDMs, if you will. We're going to be the ones doing the outreach, talking with the schools, talking with the ESCs, et cetera. And then we have a host of resources that all fall under Bill Higginbotham's organization on the back end. A variety of program managers and program consultants, principal architects, and everything else. So anything that we need through this, we can help answer. This is something that we've been doing for quite some time. The TEA program is relatively new. We are obviously kicking it off in September, but we have been providing these services for quite some time through this contract, and then before this contract with the state even existed. So, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So eligibility, as Todd had mentioned, we are really trying to focus on the critical devices that we see out at the ground level, at the ISD level. And right now, today, the EDR program that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes more in detail is available to the schools that are under 15,000 students. And currently, the staff administration devices that we're focusing on are limited at 10%. There's a little discussion around that. Todd can talk about that more in detail if he wants to. And the security assessments that are going to be available to all of the schools that choose to participate in this program. So the big thing is that under this particular program, because it is run through the DIR Managed Security Services contract, that is the state contract, that they have a completely separate onboarding system. And so each ISD, each charter school will have to go through that process that we'll talk about a little bit more here in just a minute, get through that process to actually get onboarded onto this program. So when we did a similar program with the counties for all the election security systems as well, and one of the big discussion points around that was, hey, we've worked with DIR for years, so we're all good. Well, probably not, because this is a separate contract other than some of the other cooperative contracts through DIR. So if you're thinking, hey, we've been buying off of DIR for years, this is most likely a completely separate process. If you have any questions, whether you're actually onboarded or not, you can reach out to us. Our contact information will be provided at the end. Reach out to Kelly or Scott and I, and we can go in and check for you and make sure. But be prepared to kind of go through that normal onboarding process. Program runs from September 1st through August 31st, 2025. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of very specific services available that are one is completely ready to go. The other one we're still working through some of the fine details, but we should have that cooked up here within a very short period of time. So, and that is EDR and security control assessments. So, Todd, next slide. So the onboarding process, which is at this point in time, is the single most important thing that we are trying to get out information out to the schools. We're trying to help them understand the process. We're trying to help the ESCs be able to help in that process. So we're educating them on what this process is. It can be done through us. It can be done directly with DIR. It can be done through links provided to TA. So there's a variety of ways to do it. But the process that I've kind of laid out here applies to every ISD and every charter school that would start that process. So there is a customer information form. We have provided that out. I know directly contacted. We've contacted almost every LEA in the process. There's about 1,000 of you. So I think we're up to about 800 or so that we have tried to directly reach out to. And we have provided the form directly. You can also get it through a variety of links, as I mentioned, through DIR, through TEA, etc. So once that process has started and you've completed the SIFT and you send it in, the rest of this kind of outlines the program, and I'm not going to read it line by line, but it's pretty straightforward. You send in the SIFT form. The SIFT form will basically start the process. It will allow DIR to create a very specific interlocal agreement, interlocal contract for the school. it will be assigned an agency code. It will have a contract number on top of it. It'll be returned back to the LEA for review, approval, and signature. Once that is completed, that process is completed with DIR, then DIR will set you up with a username and password. Once you have a username and password, that will allow you access into the Shared Technology Services portal at the state. You'll be provided a link, and at that point in time, you can go in there and see the products and services, and the ordering process happens at that point in time. So that is kind of where the magic happens. So once you are able to enter in that order, and once it gets a little closer, and I know we're only about a week away, so it sounds, how much closer can you get? But once it gets closer to September 1st, or just shortly thereafter, we'll be providing kind of a how-to out to the ISDs, and TEA will provide them. So there's a link to it, and I'm sure DIR will be providing a link to on the kind of the how-to document on how to go through the actual ordering process. So then it will make it easier on you once you go into the portal. If you have any questions on how to get through that portal, you need help, you need ordering process information, etc., that's what we're here for. So give us a call, let us know. Kelly, Scott, Gene, that's kind of what we do all day, every day. So let us know. We can help you get through that process very shortly. But this how-to document will also hopefully be written in such a way that you'll be able to save you a lot of time and angst getting through that process. So we'll provide that as soon as we get that approved and ready to go. So after that is all done, then what will happen is the order will be received, and then we will set up what we refer to as a service verification meeting with the specific LEA. We will talk through it to make sure that what was trying to be conveyed and what was being ordered is actually what we're going to be delivering. So we are in complete alignment, and that way your expectations are going to be what we're going to be delivering, and everybody is in sync. Once that gets done, then the LEA will go back into the portal, and they will have an approved process that they click on, and then we will be all set, ready to go, and we will move on to delivery. So it's pretty cookie cutter once we get everything all nailed down to get through that process. But we do it a lot, so understand that for folks that don't do it a lot, it may not be may not be quite as intuitive as we want. We think we've simplified it pretty well, but that's what we're here for. Just contact us so we can help you through that process as well. So next slide, please. So this is what we're going to talk about today, the endpoint detection over on the left side and the security assessments over on the right side. So I will concentrate on endpoint detection first, and then we will move on to security assessments. So what we're trying to do through this program, and I mentioned it earlier, is that we are trying to concentrate on the staff and the administration devices. We have selected two underlying technology vendors that we consider to be the best in the business, which is why we chose them, to try to provide the underlying technology for this particular program. One is CrowdStrike and one is SentinelOne. If you look at pretty much every different type of monitoring service out there, process service, ranking service, etc., they're pretty much ranked in the top 1 and 2 consistently. So we have two very, very good technology providers that will be providing a lot of the underlying services that you see there, the monitoring services and the platform and the health and performance and all those type of things for us. And then there is intertwined and intermingled through that is the AT&T staffs and processes. So this is going to be a 24/7 service. It is completely 100% managed under the standard platform that we will be tying this into a state SIM. So we'll be doing log correlation through that, and you will get the benefit of what is happening at a statewide level through alerting that's coming out of the SIM as well. That will feed into this. The whole concept behind the EDR service is really to provide that skill set and to provide those resources that are desperately needed, especially at the more rural schools in Texas. If you look at the breakdown, there's about 1,200 schools in Texas, districts, right, charter schools, and about 1,000 of those fit below the 15,000. So Texas, if you look at it, is not made up of just a huge conglomerate of big entities, and that yes, it holds a huge student number, but if you look at the overall number, it's a very much a small school oriented type of a state. So the vast majority by a long shot is what we consider the smaller schools. So that will qualify for this. So that EDR protection, again, like I said, is going to be provided through those two vendors. And then there's going to be the layer of management, the 24/7, and the state SIM services that will be rolled on top of that as well. We'll circle back to the security assessment here in just a bit. So, Bob, if you can go to the next. Okay. So this will give you a little bit of an idea on the devices. Again, we're trying to focus on staff and admin. You'll get a flavor there of what is included. So your smartphones, your tablets, your Apple, your desktops, a variety of operating systems, Windows, Linux, Android, etc. So, and the entire point is try to cover the endpoints, which are the edge devices that are most open to exploitation through, the malicious actors and those type of things. So that's why we are doing that. It is very much needed by unfortunately, pretty much every organization that's out there right now, because the bad actors are getting smarter, they're getting better, they're getting faster, and it's very, very difficult to try to work their attacks without using automation. And that's really what this is going to provide out to the school districts, is that automation piece of it. So next slide, please. So it will come, EDR will come into three flavors, if you will, that we're going to be offering through this particular program. The first one is the standard. I had alluded to it a little bit earlier. What this is a AT&T managed 24/7 offering of EDR and their flavoring, and then we are going to have the SOC, and we are going to have the SIM services layered on top of that, and it is meant to be a fully outsourced managed service that we are going to be providing out to the LEAs. And it is really designed for those LEAs that are going to, you all might be currently running an antivirus or something like that. It will give you the ability to upgrade, and it will be fully managed via us. The custom solution that you see in the center there is a little bit of a twist on top of the standard. This was designed specifically for those LEAs that were current customers of either CrowdStrike's or SignalOne. So if you fit into that environment, and one of two things that you would like to accomplish is that you might be very happy with what they're providing today, and they're very, very good. So there's a very high likelihood of that being the case, right? We wanted to allow you the ability to just continue down the path that you're on. And so this gives you the ability to do that. And so there's going to be a few nuances in order to make that happen from a technical standpoint, but that is the purpose of the custom. The other reason behind the custom existing is that specifically this applies more in the kind of the CrowdStrike sense, is that CrowdStrike, the way they have built their product set, is they have a number of modules that kind of fall on top of that baseline, if you think of it as Falcon Complete, right? They'll have some modules that you can layer on top of those. If you fall into that arena and you would like to be able to utilize those modules, the only way that we can really do that today is that you would have to purchase those modules separately outside of the TEA program, but the management of it can all be done through the custom program. So it would allow SentinelOne or CrowdStrike to continue forward, and they would be the actual vendor partner that would be managing your infrastructure. So that's the big difference between the standard and the custom. And then lastly, we have the endpoint monitoring alerting service, which is designed for those other schools that don't really want to fall into those categories because, for instance, they're happy with their Microsoft Defender or Carbon Black or whoever they're using on that side. So what this does is it takes that information, it feeds it into the 24/7 statewide SIM that I had talked about a little bit earlier, and then it would have the monitoring and alerting coming through that. So the big advantage outside of the data is you would also get that 24/7 eyes on glass that you're looking for. So I don't necessarily know or think that how popular that will be, because it's not necessarily an EDR type solution, but we wanted to put together flavors for kind of everyone, right? Because when you have 1,000 schools, you're going to have lots of different ways to kind of peel back the onion, right? So we wanted to provide options up to the ISDs. If there's any questions, we kind of go through this, then we can set up those discussions as we get closer. You get to the ordering stage, you can create that order, and then we can set up that, as I said, kind of that service verification meeting, and we can talk through it, and we can make sure that, again, the delivery is what you're expecting and what you're looking for. So hopefully we've accomplished that by offering these three flavors. So that may have spurred on a lot of questions. I don't know. We'll see kind of toward the end. But again, we might be a little challenged today being able to do Q&A, but we can certainly get back with whoever we need to and work back through TEA to provide you the information that you need so you can help make an informed choice on what you're trying to accomplish. Next slide, please. Okay, these are just some of the benefits that we have for EDR. Not going to go through this one. The main one that is really that we're really looking for is that middle one, which is the automated response, the 24/7, and that's going to be probably the biggest benefit on this slide coming through here out to the LEAs, and of course resources. Right, you're not going to be taxed for any resources on your site. This is all going to be completely outsourced into the CrowdStrike /SentinelOne. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, these are just kind of some of the benefits out here. Don't want to read them all. A couple of things I did want to highlight on here is this entire process, this entire solution falls under TexRAM's compliance, so we are not going to be running into any issues there at all. So we're all good to go from that standpoint. The other thing that I really wanted to point out is that on the right side, about halfway down, we currently manage a little over 120,000 endpoints as we speak. So this is something we've been doing for quite some time. not through this program at all, but through the MSS. And so we have a very, very seasoned staff. We have a very highly skilled staff, and we are able to address a lot of these questions and concerns. We've seen them before, so we have experience to kind of walk through that as well. A couple of other items that I did want to mention on here is that this, because it is a state of Texas managed security services contract that we're going under, you'll see it's the second to the bottom on the right side, is that this is a fully vetted contract, meaning that for any of the services on here that we have via this program, then there's not going to be any type of an RFP or anything that is going to be requested or needed from the schools to do this. And that was one of the big reasons behind utilizing that particular contract, is because of the use of doing that. Last thing I did want to point out, Mark, one of our great resources that we have on our team just chatted to me, is that this is a consumption-based model, meaning that it is going to be built out, and you all from ISD standpoint this doesn't really apply to you because it all flows into TEA, but I wanted to point this out. This is a consumption-based model, meaning that if there is devices on there that are not being utilized or not being done over a 30-day period, then there is no billing for those devices. And so some of those devices may stand down during summer months. They might be taken offline completely. And if they are, then there's not any billing for that. And so that's something that is very unique to this particular contract, along with the fact that this particular agreement, the terms are month to month. There's not a long-term commitment to this. Again, a lot of this kind of bypasses the schools and the LEAs because it's more of a billing concern, right, to TEA, et cetera, but there's not a long-term commitment. So it makes the ability to maneuver and modify and change, and also from a delivery standpoint, it really keeps us as well as our underlying technology vendors on our toes, because if things are not working properly and they're not being handled expeditiously, then again, this is a month to month. So it's something that it is definitely unique to this contract. Next slide, please, Todd. Okay. Security assessments over on the right side. I'm just going to kind of jump into those. The security assessments are available to all schools, not just those schools that are under 15,000. If you really kind of think of the security assessments, I'm sure many of you all have done these. There might be some schools that have not had a lot of exposure to security assessments. The whole point behind the security assessments is to create a baseline and to create an understanding of really what your cybersecurity maturity is going to look like. So with that being said, some of the ISDs and LEAs don't really fall into that category, right? Because you're just not large enough that this really applies to. So is it there? Yes. Is it something we can create a baseline with? Absolutely. Do I think it's needed by everyone? Absolutely. But it's really targeted toward more towards some of the schools that have maybe a little bit larger staffs, other than one that is the teacher, the basketball coach, and the IT person. So we realize that, and so that's really who this is kind of geared toward. And the whole idea of it is to really get into your processes, get into your architectures, get into your systems, understand those, walk through them, assess them from terms of governance, vulnerabilities, those kind of things, and really put that down and document those to create that baseline to give you a good snapshot of, hey, this is where we are today. And tomorrow, if we know where we are today, then we know where we need to improve to get to where we're going tomorrow. So that's really kind of the emphasis behind the security assessments. And again, as I said, they're available to all schools. Do I think they're a great idea for everyone? Absolutely, but we do understand that it's probably only going to apply to those that have the resources and have the ability to work through that process, because it's a multi-month process to go in and do a security assessment over time, right? So there has to be resources on both sides of the fence in order to make it advantageous and provide the data that you're looking for. So let me see here. I think I don't have anyone pinging me on the outside saying, hey, Gene, you forgot this or anything. So I think we're good to go there. The security assessments itself, we are still working through the process with TEA and DIR to really understand the framework in which we want to be able to deliver on for the assessments themselves. We do a tremendous amount of what we call Texas Cybersecurity Framework assessments that is built on a NIST program. And with that being said, some of those controls and some of the things that are in that TCF don't necessarily apply to schools. So we are in the process of customizing that framework and being able to deliver exact on what Melinda and Todd, as well as DIR, are wanting through that particular assessment. So hopefully that framework will get nailed down here within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be able to move forward with those as well. But so EDR, prime time, ready to go today. Security assessments, everything that we're hearing is that we are targeting September 1st. So for you all, it will probably be a mute point, but we are working very hard, very diligently to try to get that nailed down and through that process and approved and agreed on and such. So next slide, please, Todd. Okay, this is some of the benefits. The biggest thing that I wanted to point out here is that when this is over, the individual school, the individual LEA will be receiving what we call a scorecard. And that scorecard will rank you in terms of where you fall in the spectrum of the CMMI, the maturity levels, and it will give you a score on where you fit. So if your goal, for instance, is a 3.0, then if you're sitting at 2.5, then you're probably in pretty darn good shape. If your goal is a 3.0 and you're a 0.2, then we got a lot of work to do. So it will give you not only those metrics, but it will also provide to you on average, when we did the counties, probably 25 to 30 pages of information backing that scorecard up. And those details are in that 25 to 30 pages. So that will be provided out to the schools. And so you will have that, and you will have it very detailed. We have the information for a short period of time that we keep in storage for I'll call it forensics, but it's not really forensics. It's more along the lines of Q&A and questions that the ISD may have or about the assessment and what does this mean and all that. So we have something that we can have in terms of reference ability, but I believe it's 90 days, and I could be wrong, but I'll double check that. I believe it's 90 days that we will be purging that information. So that information will be seen and kept by us. It will not be seen by TEA. It will not be seen by DIR. We will provide them aggregated information, meaning that for instance, again, and I'll use the election security assessment program that we did. There was a couple of glaring commonalities that kind of ran through the 254 counties. And we will provide metrics around those, so those commonalities can now be seen by DIR and can be seen by TEA, and it really helps us in terms of working with legislator to get additional funding. You know, if it comes to find out that 80% of the schools, for instance, don't have a firewall, then we might want to get some legislative funds to go out and make sure that we can fund and get everybody a firewall. So that's really the purpose behind that. So there's not we don't have a big brother issue. We don't have an issue with sharing too much information, that kind of thing. So we try to keep it very tight, neat to know. Next slide, please. Okay, these are the organizations that are kind of included in this process. So it's it took us a long time to put this together, so I want to give them a little bit of recognition on there as well as we move through it. And then I believe our last slide, and if you move to that, Todd, is our Scott Kelly and I's contact information. Feel free to take that, drop us a note, give us a call, whatever you need to do to provide the information. Today, we're really focusing on onboarding, but that will very, very quickly soon migrate over to the technical side, or if you want to put up, you want to have calls with the underlying technology vendors, just as an example, let us know and we can help coordinate all that for you. So with that being said, thank you very much. Appreciate everybody bearing with us through some of our audio problems, and we are here to help. It's probably the biggest thing I want to leave you with. So now I think we can probably got a few minutes for Q&A. Might be a bit limited in depending on the question. So if there's something we can't answer today, I have resources on the phone that are hearing the question, and we will turn around and get that back through Todd, and we'll get that answer back out to you if we can't answer it right now.
Yes.
That's it.
Thank you, Gene. There are a few questions if you can answer these. Will training for the EDR solution be included in the agreement in the process? Can you hear me?
The training of the system, or the training of kind of walking you through the portal.
I'm interpreting that to mean the EDR solution itself. So once they get it in place, what they need to do, and to look at alerts or things that might pop up is kind of my take on it.
Yes, that's all included. We call those walkthroughs, and yes, absolutely. It is it's a read-only console, so this is not co-managed solutions, but clearly you want to see it be able to interpret what you're looking at. So yes, walkthroughs are included.
A couple questions about SIMs. If one of the slides alluded that maybe if we went with a custom option, they had to have, a district should supply their own SIM. Does one of the vendors do that better than the other, or not necessarily? That's not the question, but don't the vendors have a SIM sort of a process with that, or no? They would have to provide their own SIM.
Yeah, for the custom solution, AT&T's position on the customized solution is that we are a second set of eyes. So the responsibility and the management of that is the customer responsibility. Now, when I say that, it's not customer managed, because the customer turns around and says, hey, CrowdStrike, do it for me. Or send on, I want you to do it because I'm a customer, right? So it's their, we act as a second set of eyes. What we would probably do in that situation is we would probably sit down with the ISP and kind of walk through it and see what they have. The data still eventually would make it into the state SIM. That is the advantage of having the state SIM, right? So how that process would work, it'd be a one-off discussion on kind of how to do that. They may or may not have to necessarily have their own SIM.
And if the district has their own SIM, Is there a way to tie into that, or how would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could definitely connect SIM to SIM. That's not a problem.
All right. Question about well, there's a question about if we were over the 15,000 student, is it mandatory to fill the forms of service? I think that would be in case either it gets expanded or for the assessments. The assessments require the same kind of upfront signing up with the DIR and their managed security services. EMA is covered in the grant option? Gene?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so if a district goes over the license, would they be billed for those, I assume? How would that work?
Yeah, that's that's really a tough question. So the approval for the number of devices ultimately lies with TEA.
Yeah.
If they give you a kind of a hard stop, then yes, we'd have to come up with some kind of mechanism on the back end for creating separate billing for that. The way that the process works for that is there would be a separate order created for the, I'll call it overage, right? So say, let's use numbers that are pretty simple. So if for instance, they have 1,000 devices that you all approve and the ISD needs 1,100, then we would put in one order for 1,000 and then we put in another order for 100, and that 100 would be billed back to the organization, back to the LEA, but the management, the console, the data, everything would all be under the same console. So it would all be managed together, but there would be two separate split billing because of two separate orders. That's the way we would address it.
All right. What is the exact method for a school district to get the security assessment? So signing up and getting the interlocal agreement and getting on DIR's STS portal, I believe, would be the first step. And then just like they would request EDR, they're going to request the assessment through the portal. Is that correct, Gene?
Yes.
Okay.
And once we get that process, like I said, that process is still kind of in finalization right now. Once we get that process down, then there will be a checkbox, if you will, to order security assessments. Right now, there is not one. So you couldn't order it right now if you wanted to. But soon, once we get this nailed down, there'll be a specific checkbox for that, and it'll make it easy.
There's a question about assessments. I think I can answer this. So basically, the assessments will be a one-time assessment, and it can happen anytime over the funding period, which is September 1 of 2023 through August 31st of 2025. This is barring that there is still funding available for that. So we were planning to do about 10% of the district. So it's kind of first come, first serve. If you've already just had an assessment through another third party, I guess wait as long as you can before another assessment is helpful and valid. And I think that's probably the best advice I can give for that.
Yeah, and the way that we've addressed that as well is that if you've had an assessment done, then try to take steps to go in and fix what the assessment outlined as an issue. And then you can use a second assessment as a way to validate what you did to go in and remediate. So definitely give it some period of time and try to remediate from the last one before you go in and have the second one, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to have an assessment that will tell you the same thing.
And I think this has popped up a couple of times. If you're a current customer of one of these two vendors already for the EDR, SentinelOne or CrowdStrike, is there a method or a function to kind of get this funding paid for?
You broke up real bad.
So if you were a SentinelOne or CrowdStrike current customer, is there a way to utilize the program to get your already EDR solution funded?
Yes, there are steps. We've spoken to both of them on that process on trying to get that down. But yes, there is a way to migrate your current environment to this environment and then have it funded via DEA.
Would the best contact be you or one of the vendors themselves to get going on that?
Yeah, I have contact you, Scott Kelly, or myself.
Okay.
And we can bring in the particular vendor, and we can have those discussions on how to make that work. But both of them are both partners on both CrowdStrike and SentinelOne are very aware of that issue and willing to just go in and do this. So that's not a problem.
There's a question about, let's see how much time we got left. I think we're kind of over. See if there's anything else that's really.
Todd, can we ask about the password? I think that's in regard to the ServiceNow. There's a couple people asking about when they'll get the passwords. If they've done all their paperwork, how do they get that? I think that's a question for Eugene.
So the question is, how do they get the password issued, or kind of outline the process?
When will they get the password? It looks like there's a
Okay.
couple people that don't have it.
Yeah, once they have submitted the paperwork back to DIR with their approval and their counter signature, or their signature, then DIR will send that along for counter signature, and then they will have them executed, and they will provide a copy back to the organization. And my understanding is once the counter signature is completed, then it will be handed off to a CRM inside of DIR, and they will have a username and password created for them, and it will be sent to them. I do not know, because of just the sheer size of it, I do not know if a CRM would actually contact them with their username and password and kind of talk through that process. Normally, that's a lot of times what happens. But because of the just sheer magnitude, I don't think DIR is in a position to, their CRMs to reach out to hundreds of schools to say, here's your username and password. So at that point in time, I would look for an email coming directly from DIR and work through that. But if you have problems, if you sent your paperwork in signed and you haven't heard anything, or it's been what you think is maybe a little bit too long or something, I would either contact Gary Shade at DIR, or you can reach out to get myself, Scott Kelly, and we can help track that down for you and help get that over to you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Jeannie, I think we're out of time, and that's I think that's the majority of the questions here. If there's anything else that's I'll read through later, we can answer those offline. But Gene, thank you so much. Sorry for the audio issues. Everyone, thanks for hanging in there. And this will be recorded, and we will post this on our website, so you can give this a re-listen later. All right.
Thanks very much, Todd. Thanks everybody for joining.
All right. Y'all take care.